Adana be pokaru, Gaa-kinoomaaged, Adana be pokaru, Gaa-kinoomaaged. Nee, Giizsookwe, nee, dus Chibua much time. Nee, Gego Nike. Kan bangi Gego Ngekebatan. Nee, Jeba, Odeni saying, Kiki Gideg, Kinna Manda Gidabadadan. Manda, Kinna Manda Gidabadadan. Kinna. Nee, na Gikit. Manda Abadek, nee, Biskan, Gikitna.
Oh, Biskan.
Mina Gakidien, Kikitna, Biskan. Gamdan.
Jo minagan Zwewin.
Manda, Biskan.
Biskan.
Nee, dat kidam. Nee, Shojen.
Shoshen?
Sam Biskan kidang, Gwewin Gwetego. Maar geen nap schep zo in Gaa-kinoomaaged. Nap koagan Gaa-kinoomaagd. Nee, ik kan gwetch. Gwewnen. Kisnen. Das en mewe kit mixek Biskan. Kies pindes manda de no gego. We toin. Nee, Shojen kidan. Kies pin toon. Tak kidam Gaa-kinoomaagd toon. Nee, is entag ook toon. De beskogenheid te gaan nee. Nou, Giton. Giton. Kijk, dus het toe. Giizsookwe. Shojen abedek. Wewe is Shojen. Shojen. Gai mixes no Nishnaabemwin. Biskan. Sam gai man de Gwewin ausino. Meer. Shojen. Shojen. Nou, ik ken aan het doen. Shojen. Je bent goed in de mode, wie zit je het toe? Shojen. Shojena. Shojena. Je bent. Kan ik ben ook niet, je bent. Maar je oh. Dan is. Nee. Je bent goed. Maar je gaat in de koos zien beknang. Een beknang. Nou. Een beknang. Maar bedankt je de beknang ke Shojenin. Ben ook niet ben. Kwek Gaa-buin. Ke beknang ke Shojenin gewe. Meer. Meanwhile, na hangen gedaan mandesende zam. Kijk hoe ik heb. Kijk hoe ik heb. Wie je noemt hem? Annie. En je kan ik. We kwam kom. Kijk wat, wie ik door kwetto, ga je catch. Wie ik het tossina, kindergego, wie Nishnaabemwin. Nishnaabemwin, nooit kwam kom. Oh, zo'n screen op het Shojen. Ja. Zo staat het. Dat kan hem. Gaan uit de goeie kwam weer wetskit zien. Nee, gaan uit de. Ik ben goeie kwijt. Niet man de gesen kan ik op een Nishnaabemwin. Oh, maar je wande. Peter schieten botje de wat. Wie kwam. Oh, en ik zei man die ik nee. En ik zing man de ik sunscreen dat kan we. Nou, ik heb een beetje gekeken. Mande, je moet maar staan. Ga je te monogok. Niet meer in de eyama. Beetje knies, zo. Nou. Mande.
Going to give up me go see Giizsookwe.
Giizsookwe Gaa-kinoomaaged. Jean-Jugo nanda kinang giminak. Gim kwendan de shugo. Quinoa gabe nanda Gaa-kinoomaaged. Je moet maar staan. Winsas tamukia manda. Gabe. Neginaiten gawind moak ginendam. Apis maar begibiget nak. Giizsookwe enakshik. Gibaba min ke minoa. Eshki-wis ding man pi me minoa gibaba min ke. O de squang. Stod ik tekne inak. Eshki-nishnaabemjig gamik. Ne ak ode jiskonuewak. Eshki-nishnaabemwin wayawjig. Minoam eshki-nishnaabemjig wayawjig. Eshki-nishnaabemjig ode. Ode with tek. Na samjin kadewe. Man pikine tabana kuibuat. Tabanak nagajagazwat. Man pi agoiga make me man pi nguje epigajagadek kina mamuchigadek. Nguje gegu pagadong man pi kina. Man pi dash mine I ajabik kajanda. Mijenda nibena minen. Mijenda min kak. Min kajanda. Misho de minu agajan. Misha jugo gnabach sing. Giizsookwe hosnago. Kchosnago gegnabach. Mi de shwe. Gai gwet to china. Manda ne kidang. Manda pi among Giizsookwe. Giizsookwe. Gai de bekak. Manda ni gwet ne. Eshki-nishnaabemjig gidekidame. Manda nakshi gidekidame. Manda pishajugo Giizis. Nimgishmat. Midashkaya yabe man pinagas is Giizis. Nimgishma. Mi manda pi de bekak. De bekkat kadakidame. Mi pi de bekak. Midash de bekong. Giizsookwe enakshik. Kipa min kia. Kai gwet to china. Kai get Nishnaabemwin. Kai gwet to Nishnaabemwin. Pinishgo. Pinishgo Eshki Eshki can give a min ke. Nee, der Schispin. Moschkin gonakshik. Manda Pinishgo manda. Gaa-kinoomaaged kidam. Gaa-kinoomaaged. Gaa-kinoomaaged give a min ke. Man pieta min ka. Niibing tenon minen. Min ka kidang. Miwini. Niibing tekigego. Niibing tekigego. Ngujignaning. Emajiging. Ispin niibing tek teuminen. Teumin ka. Ispin niibing beot mskomenek ka. Niibing gego tek. Miwe ka. Ekoin kidang. Midashwe. Gaa-kinoomaaged. Gaa-kinoomaaged minwa. Give a min keje. Gaa-kinoomaaged. Bemejigashki. Dojigashki. Gaa-kinoomaaged dojigashki. Minwa. Do wagajita. Do kchimin ke. Migu minamejigashkia. Kain gujet tesno wimmad bea. Nangut nung ajabikte. beshe deshe Niibing tenon. Nangod nung china ajabe kung bangingi kenamadap. Keji bagade binya bangi. Min kya. Gegadash go gabenagosh. Do abjigashki. Jigashki. Madash is chigang. Panedash. Gaiwa tungoding. Gaiwa tugochina. Gega gabenagosh. Do abjigashki. Ode mino anen. Migo mino ujigashki. Ode ge anen. Migo mino do ujigashki. Migo benagosh. Apjish nungun do gagi da bigagade. Nungodash do gagi da bigagade. Oh man, gagidis, 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 gagidis. Gagi da bigagade. Kichitok. Gagi da bigagade. Gagi da bigagade. Gagi da bigagade. Gagi da bigagade. Gagi da big da big gagade. Nungo gagi da bigagade. Mandashanda and Jikidang Apish gagi desea carding Anish Eshribsea Dogagidis 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 Mandadash Kidang Nee. Kego dakidamwe. Gina go being keep up saying, oh, de science kid nung. Migo ganak got tenjigekwe. Oh, it ni. Gagida big is a day. Gagida big nikke. Nee. Giizsookwe. Giizsookwe. I don't know if any of you were at the workshop I did at Nishnaabemwin this spring. In thinking about these sort of more in a way, funnily descriptive words, I just became more conscious of, I could have simply said just a very basic, I guess, statement. Gaa-kinoomaaged. Gaa-kinoomaaged. I could have said that. Makes equal, the same sense. Gaa-kinoomaaged. I would be saying the same thing, that my legs are sore. Okay? But we get more descriptive, and I guess it's the equivalent of, in English uses figures of speech. So we have our own ways of speaking colorfully in a way, like not just plain old basic facts. So abig, that's the morpheme that relates to strings or ropes. So when I'm saying gagida bigagade, I'm sort of speaking more figuratively, as if my legs were like ropes or strings. And that one is quite common. Gagida biganike. And even if a person, if you're really strenuously exercising, you didn't warm up properly, you hardly ever exercise your whole body. You got too much into it right away. If your whole body is sore, yeah. Gagida bigis. Gagida bigis. You could say the same thing as if you are a string or a rope. Giizsookwe. Now how?
Is it kind of like it like hurts in a way that is string-like, kind of like this, or is it more like I'm visualizing my arm as if it's a string, and this string hurts?
It's my arm that's hurting. I'm just choosing to talk about my arm as if it were a string-like object.
Okay.
Yeah, because in Rhodes Dictionary, I don't know if you've ever looked into that, and I think we follow the same convention online. In the online dictionary, you'll notice for some verbs, it'll say in brackets, of sheet-like objects, of string-like objects, of stick-like objects. Yeah, because this is in the middle is where you'll hear pieces. So when you see those, either the thing is like specifically about that kind of object, but sometimes we use those figuratively of an actual human being.
Oh.
You know, because and that stuck in my mind, like the figure of, like the idea of, oh yeah, these must be our ways of being metaphorical or speaking figuratively. Because I remember the first time Rand Valentine noticed something like that, whatever, I was just one of the word lists I gave him. And he emails me back, surely, Gaa-kinoomaaged. Yeah, if you're carrying something up like really heavy, I was just thinking back to the day when we would get water from down the hill, the well down the hill. And if you're carrying something really heavy, Gaa-kinoomaaged. I think he saw that example, said something like that. And he says, surely arms aren't strings. And I said, yeah, we know that. I know. But we talk about them as if they are sometimes, just for the fun of it, eh? It's like how you use English figures of speech all the time. You don't even realize it. Yeah. Oh, I guess I'll just hang out here for a while. Are you going to be literally hanging somewhere? No, it's a figure of speech. So we have our own kinds of ways of talking, non-literally like that. And this, I would consider this kind of verb one of them. That indicates that something is so heavy that your arm's practically breaking like a string would break from a heavy load. That's the image, I guess, the funny image, eh? Like, of course, your arm is not literally breaking off. Yeah. Anyhow, so going to walk, so I thought I'd share those fun little things with you. Now.
Is it also though, like just the sound of it?
Part of the fun of it, yeah. Part of the fun of it is the imagery evoked in one's mind, and also sometimes these words sound fun to say. Yeah. There's different ways of having fun with one's language. Like tongue twisters, Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. How many pecks of pickled peppers did Peter Piper pick? Yeah. Oh, Gaa-na-na-na-na-na. Yeah, I like that one too. Yeah, I know in English a lot of times people call their grandmother Nana, Nishnaabemwin, but anyway, Gaa-na-na-na-na-na. Yeah. Anyway, and I thought, this is another little time word, Gaa-kinoomaaged. And by the same token, if you're doing something all afternoon, the whole afternoon, you could say, Eshki-nishnaabemjig. Eshki-nishnaabemjig. Yeah, this idea connotes like for that whole time, like for that whole time period. Nakshik. Gaa-kinoomaaged verb aussi. Adverb maba. Maba verb nakshik. It's evening. Nakshik. When we say nakshik, we're not really saying just in the evening. We're actually saying when it is evening. We're putting that verb into the conjunct form. Quick, when it is afternoon. Not just simply in, like in English, the normal phrasing is in the afternoon. But Nishnaabemjig, the way we express that, it's like saying when it's afternoon, because for us, time periods are, certain of them are spoken of like using verbs. Oh, nakshe, it's evening. I didn't notice the time. Whatever, okay. But yeah, we can take the same pieces and make an adverb out of them. Gbe nagosh? Gai mix es no. Ka. Mino gbe shkwanokwe. Zam. You generally don't drop long vowels. But short vowels are, vulnerable to being dropped in certain other word forms. That one I haven't heard. When people are doing something all morning, sometimes I'll usually hear ngunaukwe. Ngunaukwe. It's like saying, in English, the literal translation doesn't make much sense. It sounds weird. Ngunaukwe. It's like saying one morning full. Yeah, okay. But we don't say kebekijep. I haven't heard that. Ngunaukwe. Naukwe. Yeah, you hear these variations. Is there a W there or not? You'll hear it both ways. And then same thing like the big cut. When you say the big cut, you're saying, oh, it's night. You're just observing, it's night. If you're doing something at night, in Nishnaabemwin dibikuk, when it's night, is literally, again, the phrasing. You're switching to conjunct. Like that's how our time phrases work. But, Giizsookwe gegu, Giizsookwe, Ann Corbiere, Eshki-nishnaabemjig en Giizsookwe, Mage moon egening en Giizsookwe, Ann Corbiere, Manda P-o-maaged na kiwak, nakshik, Jabod bikak o-maaged na kiwak, Gabe de bik na kiwak, Gabe de bik na kiwak, Ann Corbiere, Abedek, Gabe de bik na kiwak. Moon again in wak, Ann, Nangodnung, Eshki-nishnaabemjig en Giizsookwe, Kunnen en ook ge aanen appichen gebede bik abedek na kiwak. Midas bigiat kchikijep bigie ook skwana kiat. Bangina ma kewis nitigenak. Midas minwa epichigijak ken baat kega gebegijik abedek n bawak. Gebegijik n bawak. Gebegijik. Ich bin Manda. Migewe gebegijik. Again, working off giizsookwe. It's day, but if you did something the whole day, gebegijik abedek kinba.
Means adverb, right?
All day. The sam gebede bikigi na ki, gebegijik dus kinba.
Ngunaukwe, Gimin ke dokmanyan.
Giizsookwe kishepen takskosia, kai kishepen don takskosi. Bishigen dan kishepen ba. Giizsookwe kishep. Ngoje jang sada baganek mage jabom da sada baganek maja pinish now quick kumin ke. Mi the mix seg bongo now kwe kimin ke.
Giizsookwe zam guamyan. Pionishkayan niniwak degoshinawad oma. Dakonan mikisganatik. Ngonaakwe Giizsookwe Wado Ninawa.
Ngonaakwe Kaingwe Quinzin Duk en Jikidien.
Oh, Dick, Kajira.
Bejik na nene, mage
Nish.
nish. Ngonaakwe Giizsookwe Digenak.
No.
Minen anen kidwinnen. Kishpin miksek wina kazie. Nou, Chibwane anjiek abdek. Chibwane anjiek abdek. Oops. Kega odin do paganak pokaru. Ganji da pokaru. Ja, begodan madebe. Nou. Manda ngi maundo bian. Gaa-kinoomaaged de bade de mang. Oh, ga je het om nessin?
We Chinoki.
Manda.
Kajituna? Oh no. Kajira. Girayana Bejik?
Oh,
Mana.
man pite. Man pite. Okay, so the way I arranged this graphic, yeah, trying to make an already confusing thing a little bit less confusing. Of course, you're not going to make sense of it totally in one sitting. Okay, so the way I set it up was instead of trying to write the words right on the steps, I just thought I'll use numbers. So I numbered a couple of situations. The arrows represent situations where the dot is where, like, that's the actor, that's a person doing something. And the arrowhead is the person to whom they're doing it, or for whom they're doing it, or with whom they're doing it. So, Giin is you, Nin is me, Win is a third person, Win is another third person. So those are, the graphic shows the possible different kinds of sentence situations. And when I say sentence situations, if I need to say something like, will you ask him? Or are you going to ask him? That would be the number one from Giin going down to him, third person, Win. So that's the idea behind those arrows and the numbers. Now the reason I numbered, and then the same kind of, you see a number one also for the situation of Nin, me, doing something with third person or for third person or to third person. The reason I numbered both of those one is that that situation, you start with the same verb stem, kwejma. So for example, below, so those are just verb stems. Those are just your starting points. You got to add stuff to them for your sentence. So I just gave a couple of example sentences below that. So the first one says, Qui kwejmana. Who is going to be doing the asking, I'm wondering? Like, are you going to ask him? Is what I'm basically thinking. So the ga comes up because I'm asking if Giin, you, are going to be doing that. And then, or I could just say, oh, I want to ask him something. Nui kwejma, gego. So the verb stem is the same. So that's why I numbered that kwejma as one. And dictionaries generally, Nishnaabemwin dictionaries, they generally give that form for verbs when they're from English to Nishnaabemwin. How do you say ask somebody? Kwejma is what you'll find in the dictionary. Yeah, I think they might have a conjunct suffix on it depending on their way of organizing words. Okay, and then, so that's the number one kind of situation. And that's just my numbering, just to try and make something with a lot of information, hopefully a little less cluttered, or at least a little easier to sort out. The number two situation is when you doing something to me or for me. So that's why the arrow is stopping, like I didn't want to go right on the steps. Gin, nin, gin to nin. Okay, so the verb stem you're working with is kwejim. So if somebody's looking at me with a puzzled look on their face, or they seem to like, they're hesitant to ask me, but it looks like they want to ask me something. Keeguna kui kwejim. So that's your third example, like in the example sentences here. Keeguna kui kwejim. Do you want to ask me something? So you're using kwejim for that. You, me. Okay? And now I put 2a because for whatever reason, that particular verb stem by itself can be used as a sentence. And when it is a command for you to do something to one third person. Well, actually for two as well, third persons. Okay? Kwejim. So it's a command also. So if you hear kwejim by itself, you're saying, ask him or ask her. So that particular verb stem is used in two ways. The number 3 situation is, instead of gin to nin, it's nin to gin, me to you. As in, yeah, I want to ask you something. Yeah. Kego gui kwejmin. So the verb stem that pops up is kwejmin. Kwejmin. So that's number 3. Okay. Now there's a bunch of number 4s. Okay, so the first number 4, the first time I wrote number 4 was if he or she is doing something to you. Did he ask you? Ki kwejmikna. So that's the number 4 situation. Did he ask you? Ki kwejmikna. So you're using the number 4 verb stem. And then if I say, yeah, he asked me, the same verb stem happens to come up. So that's why you see 2 number 4s. One going from win to nin, another one going from win to gin. Gi kwejmik. Yes, he asked me. Gi kwejmik. Using the same verb stem. Just the person prefix changes because gi kwejmik or gi kwejmikna is did he ask you? Gi kwejmik. Yes, he asked me. So the person prefix changes depending on who is being asked, you or me. Because you is always on the highest step, okay? Now, you see on the other side of the sheet, things labeled, it looks like 0, that's supposed to be the letter O. That's my short form for obviative. Obviative is kicking in. The situation where obviative kicks in is when you have 2 third persons, one of them doing something to the other. So it's either the person on the higher step doing something to the person on the lower step, the 4th person, as generally we refer to it, okay? Or it could be the 4th person doing something to the 3rd person. And in the 0, 1 situation, obviative 1, the one I numbered obviative 1, that happens to use the same stem as kwejma. That's why I numbered it 1. The other one I labeled kwejma initially, that comes up again in the 3 to 4 situation, 3rd person to 4th person. But you see an N, that's your obviative suffix. He asked her. Ki kwejman. Ki kwejman. I hear that, oh yeah, okay, he asked her. And again, like the other day, I said, yeah, it's just totally arbitrary. For whatever reason, I put him on the 3rd step and her on the 4th step. I'm not subjugating women, okay? Just a situation, just the way it came out in my mouth, okay? Gi kwejman. If for whatever reason I decided to park the person who did the asking. If I parked that person on the fourth step, then you'd hear the other one. And that's, which is, you're starting off the same way with the same verb stem, basically, kwejmik. And because that's not actually a hard K, it's more like sort of a bit more like a G. Over here, it comes out clearly like a G. So when you see 04, kwejmigon, you're starting off with kwejmik. But because it's not a hard K, it comes out clearly like a G sound. Kwejmigon, ki kwejmigon. Or we kwejman, the example sentences I wrote below. We kwejman. He's going to ask her. We kwejmigon could be he's going to ask her. Okay, again, like the other day I said, in a given instance of saying a given remark, we just park somebody on either of those steps if we're talking about two people doing something to each other, with each other, or for each other, okay? Now, and I was thinking further on your question, like in Nishnaabemjig stories, is Nishnaabemjig, like, I still can't answer that one. Is Nishnaabemjig typically on the third step? I don't know. I'd have to look at some stories to see if there's a pattern there. But what I did realize was that typically, remember, animals are animate, so we speak of them as if they were people. Generally, if we're talking about an animal doing something to somebody, or whatever, or a person walking their dog, whatever, person having a cat, whatever. Generally, the animal is the fourth person, okay? So if you see, say, guizens, oh, manpi aspisa guizens, Gaa-kinoomaaged guizens, oh, Eshki-nishnaabemjig guizens. Nimshin, Giizsookwe. I'm going to go with tkumik. Nimshin, Giizsookwe. Kiken ma nimush? Yeah. Eshki-nishnaabemjig guizens. Nimshin, Giizsookwe. I could say it paints the same exact picture. I could put the nimush on the third step and say nimush Giizsookwe guizensen. I could say that. Paints the same picture. But I'm instinctively just automatically going nimshin Giizsookwe guizens. And in that situation, that's probably prompted by, like, we're most concerned about the boy. What happened to the boy? Like, we're not too concerned about the dog. It's like, oh, that's nimshish, that darn dog. Our concern is, oh, little guy's got a bandage on and he's limping along. Yeah. Yeah, so animals generally will be parked on the fourth step if it's an animal doing something to somebody. Now, if you're a real animal lover, you could be more concerned with animals. If a boy is always, teasing the dog. I'm still automatically going with the pojikot. Yeah, I don't know. I guess, like, with people, like, we just typically will park them automatically on the third step. Yeah. He'll bite you. Yeah, he'll bite you. You're going back to the tkumik. The dog, will bite you. Tkumik. Yeah, so that's That's what I hope. Of course, Gikendan, you're not going to sort this all out today. But hopefully this graphic will be a good reminder of how you would change the verbs. And so we just, like with the other groups, I just asked them, okay, what do you have? Try it out. Could you talk? Try it out with some VTA that you can think of you would want to say. You would need to say, like in a non-command, just a independent one-clause remark or question. Could you talk Giego? As long as you have an animate, as long as you need to use an animate transitive verb. Giego makwenda na? Yeah, we got into the loving somebody because somebody was thinking of a song for the song they heard an elder sing to kids. Yeah. Nondwa. Now. So, like just following that same, just a scheme, I'll just use the numbering system I'm using there. Nondwa. Hee. Nondo. Now that business here, I'm writing that now. Back in the day when I was first teaching, because the main thing that people want done is spell it like it sounds. Okay, the own. Technically, this is what we're saying, non-don, but have you heard of the O glide in the spelling system? You have something like O, ew, ew. You start off with one vowel, but then you start to say the O, but you don't go into a full-blown O normally. Wiki folks, they go into a full-blown O, and that becomes the dominant sound. It sort of erases the earlier vowel sound. So that's why that's this, when Wiki folk, yeah, it sounds more like an O. So that's how I used to spell these verb stems. But the only reason I'm switching back to this, well, not back, but I decided, I'll go with this, was that this is just a reminder that this isn't coming out of the blue. There's something consistent here. These are related verbs, verb stems, okay? Now, the reason I went hee is this is one of those predictable patterns. And it's like debout toi. VTAs that have this kind of ending in the number one form and in the command form. Well, again, the command too, like if this were said as a command, hear him. It too would sound, if Wiki folks needed to say that, or Wiki folks when they say this, it's again, that too sounds like an O because the O glide ends up becoming the dominant sound. Debueto. Debueto. But that's the O glide. The O just took over, okay? So that distinctive feature, yeah, when you put it in the number 4 form, like she didn't hear me. Gaa-kinoomaaged. they switch to an ak instead of an ik. This one, notice this one doesn't have a W in the tail end of the number 1. Zag-a. Kwejama doesn't have a W before the a. So any verb that doesn't have a W, generally they'll switch to an ik. Zaga, zag-ik. Wabma, wabmik. Kwejama, kwejmik. Gnona, gnonik. And you're switching back and forth from this to this, eh? Yeah, I hope that numbering system doesn't throw people off. Third person, fourth person. No, it's just for that specific graphic. The fourth situation, third situation, fourth situation. Okay. Yeah. So again, non-dwa, because it has a wa rather than ma or glottal stop a, and so on. Yeah, so that's very predictable. Anytime you hear a verb stem with a wa, most of them, maybe. There's always an exception, a few exceptions. So offhand, I can't think of one. Oh, I thought of one, an exception, where it doesn't conform to this pattern. Mzina's wa. I'm not sure how common this is among communities. Mzina's wa. Take a picture of somebody, photograph somebody. Mzina's wa. Take a picture of him. Mzinazo. So far, so good. I'll take a picture of you. Come zinazon. She took a picture of me. Gim zinazok. You definitely don't hear gim zinazak. So that is an exception to the exceptions.
The good stuff.
Fortunately, very few are like that. I think generally, most of the time you see a non-daman wa, non-wa, mi wajoebuk. We gego we kwedwe, anish en sudabaganek. Mina abadek go we kebuntang. We away pigego we kwedwe. Oh, tense prefix na.
Ethical gewabandan you wa pi misa doshko noswin mage.
Wabin jibedek. Eshki-nishnaabemjig.
NOD mage goiningi jibige si you
Moshkin
sentence.
Wabin jibedek. Pish mage anish. Mjibede non. Mjibede non.
Miga kiddo wawaskone indinendam debatan you.
Kagon gitchen gatstosin a chit kiam damage gogindama. Mandanganenan. Mjibede non. Mjibede. Ah, oh. Gishpin gego Amazon njidwain. Amazon na kazian gego we gishpin na doin. Nangot nang nochun go jibin jibidewe. Mi dus nabien. Oh, manda kam jidwain Amazon. Pish idik wabin jibidek dakit. Chigamingna, mage California, mage Monyang, Pish idik wabin jibidek, man the Amazon gam jidwaya. Miwe Peter na kasyamba, Pish dokore, Pish idik wabin jibidek.
Ninoda nana gunungaya wajueba?
Wajuebak? No.
I'm sort of got all confused with the da, wa, we, gay, j. Like I got all muddled up for the last little while. And so I was trying to figure out when you use wa, and most of the examples were kind of
Versus
like
we?
Yeah.
Is that it?
I was wondering if it was the same because most of the examples I could think of had a relative root in them. Like, do you say we?
Kies ben appies kwedoen, minos verb relative root bit. Appies wajayen.
Going, we could see apish we tuyan. Yeah, apish we tuyan.
Kidam go appies witoin.
Manda we mixe.
Appies witoin. Mixe.
Oh no.
Appies wajayen, mixe.
No.
Ani dus ieder in je kidding wobben jibbedik. Ga kid on agado in them. Ani in je kid sing appies we bin jibbedik. Abdik ga kid on agado in them.
Oh, you know.
Now.
You know. Oh.
Abdik we na majam. Abdik we na majam. Abdik we anjim. Abdik we anjim.